Good afternoon. Today is April 16th and I am out here a little bit later than I'd like to be tapping birch trees, but it is what it is. We've had some cold weather and we've had some rainy weather and some windy weather, and I just do not go in the woods at that point. So here I am today. It rained this morning and it's cloudy and all kinds of yucky weather, and but here I am anyways. And I am going to show you how I tap birch. And as you can see there, this is a birch polypore, but this is what I collected, part of what I collected in another tree. And there's like 3 times as much as that, but you can see how clear that is. I mean, that's just beautiful. That's just water, how beautifully pure. And I've been painting this morning, so mind my fingers here. Okay, typically you want some sort of a drill when you drill into a tree, and I'm using a 1/2-inch drill bit just because I didn't have a 7/8, but that's a preferred size. And I typically go in about 1.5 inches, it doesn't, as long as you're close, I don't gauge it. And I have a water pipe. It's about 4 feet long. And I have what I call a spigot, but it's a tapping thingamajiggy. That goes into the tree, the sap runs down into the tube and into my bucket here. And I have this held on by just a regular twister, or what most people call a twist tie. And that just works best for me. And I have my tapping stick. When I put it in the tree, I can tap it in to the depth that I want, or to the snugness that I want, and then I'm all set. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I'll have to splice these videos together, see how much I mumble in the meantime. Okay, this is actually one tree that split off down here, and as you go up further, that one on the right is a little bit larger than this one, but it also has some scar tissue. And it's not in the best of shape. I believe this one right here is in a better shape, this side over here. So I'm just going to do that one. And I think right about there is where I want to be. So I'm going to go in about, if I can do this, I'll zoom out. If I can do this, I'm going in about 1.5 inches. That's about 1.5 inches. And as you see, it started running already. Go ahead and clean some of this off a little bit. And again, mind my fingers, I've been painting this morning. So then I take my spigot and put it in part way. I take my trusty stick here, get it at the angle that I want. And pound that in. And that should be good. And it's running. Now I gotta figure out a place to put this. I'll be back. Okay, I've got it all set up and I got it propped up good and sturdy up against that little embankment there, and I moved this fallen tree so it helps hold it up. And as you can see, it's running. The pail's a little dirty because I've had stuff in it bringing it out into the woods, and I lost my cover at some point, so I have to backtrack, and hopefully I remember my zigzags so I can find my cover. And I'll come back and put it over the top of this and put a rock or a log or something on top of it so it keeps the rain and rain and insects out maybe. And it's the time of year that bears are out with their cubs, so I might come back tomorrow and find that this is already emptied and drank or spilt up. And I've had beasts rip my pails from the trees before, so I tend to like to put them on the ground now and just brace them up, and that way if something does tear them from the tree, like a bear or a raccoon or just a curious little critter, that it won't break my pail as it falls. So that's my hope anyways. And I'll come back and collect these in just a few minutes. I have to find my cover. And that's in there pretty good. I might have to come back and tap that a little bit more, but we'll see. Nothing's running down there, so I'm in good. I'm in good is what I wanted to be. So, okay. I am tapping birches today, and I have already put in a tap over there, as you can see, and hopefully I'll put a video up to show you that process. And I decided to sit down for a couple minutes to talk to you about tapping birch trees and why we do it and why other people may do it. And first of all, when the maple season, tapping season, starts to wind down, and that's when you see the little buds starting to come up on the trees. And there's a maple right there. You see, I don't know if I can get you in closer, but you see that middle tree right there, right in the middle. See those little nubs at the tips of those limbs of that bare tree right there? That right there means that the maple is starting to bud out, and that's when you want to stop maple sap collecting. And this is a good time to gauge when to start tapping the birch. And you should tap birch on at least an 8-inch tree. I've done 6-inch trees before, and I just don't like it. Just basically use the same common sense or the same knowledge you would if you were tapping maple. And you use a 7/8-inch bit, or today I used a 1/2 inch because I couldn't find a 7/8. And I went in approximately 1.5 inches. And you'll know, if you go in 1 inch and you don't start getting some good run, then either it's too cold or you're too early, or even if you're too late, it won't run. So try going a little bit deeper and try 1.5 inches instead, and see how that works for you. But always keep checking though, because you don't want to go in too deep and damage the tree any more than you have to. So the earlier you start tapping birch, the sweeter the sap is going to be. And granted, it's not sweet. I mean, this right here, I love sap. I love tasting this right here because it tastes like, to me, honestly, Hawaiian bottled water, where they used to get it. They get it out of a lava pool, and the water is so deliciously, almost a little bit sweet. Like if you take a cup of water and you add, and it's starting to rain or something out, and you take and add like a 1/4 teaspoon or even a 1/2 teaspoon of sugar and dissolve it, it's about basically that sweetness that you're talking about. And if you look how beautifully clear that is. And of course I'll strain that over there and anything that I get, but this right here was really, really pure today. And the difference between maple and birch is quite a bit. Your maple concentration of sugar to water is about 40 parts sap to 1 part syrup in the end after you boil it down. And birch, unfortunately, is like 80 to 90 to 1. So that's a lot more sap. There's a lot, the boiling down process is longer. But basically it depends on when you tap. If you tap when the buds is just starting to come out on the birch, then you're going to get like 100 to 1 ratio. But if the nutrients are still there, it's just going to be watered down more is all. Excuse me. But when you collect birch, you have to boil it down to within 24 hours or it will start going bad, or it will go bad, and you have to dump it out because it's spoiled. So if it's cold, you still want to boil it down within 24 hours. Unless you're getting a hard freeze, then you can let it freeze. And of course, sugar doesn't freeze, so after it's frozen, you can simply pour off what's in the bucket that hasn't frozen, and there you go. You're already a huge, huge step ahead of the boiling down process, because the water is going to freeze and the sugary water is not. So that's a big hint if you want to keep your pails out and let them freeze on a cold, cold night after you've collected it. Or if you get a big freezer, you can put your buckets in there and then let that do it for you. So, but that's something that you can consider. That will save you a whole lot of time, and we've done that in the past, and that's it's a huge help. But if you're tapping on a day that it's like 60, 70 degrees or even higher for whatever fluke reason, you're going to want to pretty much at least bring it to a boil after you collect it. I mean, within a few hours, because you don't want to risk that chance of it just going bad. You just don't. Excuse me. So I don't know. I think that's all I want to say, except for I like drinking the sap. Just like this right here. This is how I collect it. This is how I like it. This is how I drink it. However, Paul can't have it like that. He has to have it boiled down into a syrup because he's sensitive to it. So for him, the boiling process is better for him because it kills some element in it that he's sensitive to. And he's sensitive to a lot of stuff anyway. So, but with that said, I think it's about like a 39% of the people who did a skin scratch test for the allergies for Birch, 39% of those had a reaction. So to me, that's quite high. So if you have allergy issues and you tend to be sensitive to different pollens and plants and stuff like that, you might want to take a little more caution than I do. For Paul, the tip of his tongue will start to go tingly and numb. So once he felt that, he tried it 3 or 4 more times over the years, and he still gets the same reaction. So he stopped drinking it. And we've actually stopped using it as a syrup as well. And real quick on the syrup, after you boil it down, I like it specifically as a glaze, like on chicken or pork, or even a stir fry. I'll pour a little bit in there, and it really changes the flavor, and it adds a really good depth of flavor to it. And honestly, some of the best no-bake cookies I've made is with, instead of using vanilla, I've used birch syrup as a flavoring. And everything else was exactly the same, and people went crazy over it. So I think that is something that I've been doing since, except for if I don't have a jar open, then I won't. But if I do, then I'll always revert to birch syrup as a replacement for vanilla, because it adds a beautiful flavor to no-bake cookies, especially the chocolate ones. So they say, but I'm more partial to the peanut butter ones. So I think all I have to say is that, and I have to retreat still to find my pail cover. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere down that way, through the thickets that way. So I don't know. And it's starting to rain, so I got to get my patoot out of here anyways and see if I can splice this together and get rid of all the nonsense. So, adios amigos.